I'm Yasmin Gagne.
I'm Josh Christensen.
And this is Most Innovative Companies. On today's episode, Fast Company contributor Michael Linhorst.
In general, it looks like for each new facility they open up, they expect to bring in between 60 million and 85 million.
Fast Company editorial assistant Grace Snelling.
You can smash it with a hammer if you don't like it, whereas with ChatGPT, you can't really throw that out a window.
And as always, keeping tabs.
Actors Equity may authorize its first strike of Broadway shows in Broadway theaters since 1968.
But first, here's the download, the news you need to know this week in the world of business and innovation.
This week saw two big launches from OpenAI. First, the AI giant launched Sora 2, the sequel nobody asked for, an AI video generation app. Users can create videos that feature friends, themselves. We could have ourselves like playing a pickup game, Yaz. I could dunk on you. You could dunk on me. All of these things are possible with Sora 2. Prompts for generating videos like figure skater performs triple axel with a cat on her head are not only possible, but rendered into realistic, convincing videos. The app remains invite only for right now, but has quickly topped the charts on the Apple App Store. And there was another ChatGPT-related bit of news from OpenAI. On Monday, OpenAI announced a suite of apps will now be available on ChatGPT. Users can now use applications like Canva, Zillow, Expedia, Shopify, Booking.com for some reason. Actually, that one probably makes the most sense. All with the chatbot. Would you use apps within ChatGPT?
I don't know, man. I'm not even 100% clear on what that looks like, but like I'll probably end up using them without realizing.
Yeah, that's true. You're just going to end up door dashing stuff via ChatGPT.
Yeah, exactly.
ChatGPT, feed me.
Yeah.
And see what comes to your door.
Up next, Verizon CEO Hans Vestberg has stepped down, the company announced on Monday. The former CEO of PayPal, Dan Schulman, will be taking over the helm of the wireless carrier. Now, Ainsley Harris actually profiled Dan Schulman when he was the CEO of PayPal a few issues ago, so go check that out.
Yeah, it's great. More CEO and C-suite shakeups. We had a bunch last week.
This one's a bummer, though.
Yep. Paramount announced the purchase of news website. Is news website the right word? Opinion site?
They do actually cover a fair amount of news. Like, I will say some of it is just straight down the middle coverage.
Yeah. I gotta say, not much of that bubbles to the surface of what people are consuming on a day state. So purchase of news website, The Free Press, on Monday. That, of course, is the website founded by Barry Weiss, the former New York Times opinion columnist, who I don't know. I don't remember. I kept seeing people talk about how she was canceled from the New York Times a few years ago, and I honestly can't remember why.
I think she canceled herself.
Yeah.
She wrote an op-ed about being censored.
Yeah, she Chanel'd herself from which is a reference to the first season of Drag Race. Those who know. Or Ben de la Creme for a more modern reference to a Drag Race season from 10 years ago. Anyways, she's the new editor-in-chief of CBS News, somehow. Paramount Skydance CEO David Ellison, and probably number one Nepo baby in the business right now, said that Weiss will, quote, shape editorial priorities, champion core values across platforms, and lead innovation in how the organization reports and delivers the news. That's your latest update in useless jargon from a CEO.
Costco will soon sell popular weight loss drugs Wegovy and Ozempic at its pharmacies. The drugs will be available with a prescription to the tune of $499 out of pocket for a month's supply. Now, that price is about a third less than the list price for Wegovy and about half that of Ozempic. The drugs are already available at the same discounted price at both Walmart and CVS. Drugs manufacturers, Novo Nordisk, hopes that the wider availability of the popular drugs will keep it ahead of the competition. Novo Nordisk has seen a more than 50% drop in share price this year and forecasts slow growth for the rest of 2025, which is wild because for a while it was literally moving Denmark's economy.
Yeah. Oh, man, this is really going to cut into Costco's hot dog business. Dumb. Moving on. And finally, as of recording this, which is Thursday morning, you're probably listening to this Thursday night, many things might have changed. The U.S. federal government is still shut down, and it's putting stress on many essential government workers, particularly air traffic controllers, which is great. I'm not worried about this at all. Already expected to work without paychecks, many controllers are also calling out sick, impacting air travel across the nation. There's been a ton of delays. There were no air traffic controllers at the Burbank airport, apparently, recently. So it's great. I have travel coming up, and I feel super great about that.
No doubt when Spirit canceled my flight, they blamed the government, but I know you better. As soon as they canceled it, I was like, I deserve this. I booked a Spirit flight.
Hey, Spirit, look at me. Look at me. Stop your shit.
And that's the news you need to know today. So, Josh, have you ever thought of a chatbot as your friend?
No, I struggle to think that actual human beings are actually my friend. I'm always like, I don't know if they like me. I don't know if they're my friend. So a chatbot, as cold and withholding as they can be, how can I possibly expect them to like me back? I mean, ChatGPT, that's the it girl right now. How can that be my friend?
The only thing I do that is I've caught myself doing that is so lame is if I'm using ChatGPT.
Do you say thank you?
Yes. Spits out an answer and I'm like, thank you so much.
I talk to ChatGPT and I don't really use the voice function. I just do the type things. I'm so utilitarian with it. I'm literally just like, write, email to mom. Go. As basic of information as they need. I'm not writing out full hey, ChatGPT, I'm
that's
thinking
me.
about
I'm
writing.
Hey, could you please, would you mind? Right.
And there was a while where I think it's kind of balanced out now. There was that update to ChatGPT where it was so obsequious.
Yeah, I know.
Where it was just that is the best idea ever. You should. It was the worst friend you could have. That's the sort of friend you need. ChatGPT, I think that was 5, the first update to 5 or 4, where it was just you go, girl. Anything you do is the greatest idea ever. That's the friend we need.
I had to fire a psychiatrist once for doing that. I'd be like, this is something terrible I did.
I'm not sure it's called firing a psychiatrist.
Yeah, I just had to find another. I'd be like, I did this thing that is clearly terrible. And she'd be like, don't beat yourself up. I would do the same. And she was my age too. And I was like, this is...
Well, there's that
not working.
There's that nexus of cheap therapists. Were you doing the thing where it was a student? It was a med student.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, because it was $80 a session, and they were practicing, and they're like, I don't. And you're I have real issues that need dealing with. I think I need someone who's 57 years old and divorced twice.
Who's just you're a bad person, and I'm like, word.
I need a mean white woman named Janice who tells me I'm shit.
That's exactly it. I don't know how we got onto the psychiatrist topic, but
I don't know. This seems like a natural transition to me.
Reason we were talking about friends is because later on in this episode, we'll be talking to Grace Snelling about Friend AI and what the hell that weird company is. But first, a darker topic. Less than a year into the Trump administration, and the federal government is making good on its mass deportation promises. Lately, we've seen viral videos of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, taking people into custody from arriving in unmarked cars at work sites and storming into residential apartment buildings to camping outside of immigration court hearings. In the first half of this year alone, ICE had about 57,000 people in its custody on any given day. To handle this 43% increase in detainees, ICE is turning to the support of for-profit immigration detention centers run by companies like Geo Group. The almost $3 billion company is the agency's top contractor with 100 facilities across the country. Now, to learn more about Geo Group, we spoke with Fast Company contributor Michael Linhorst to learn more about America's largest private prison company, its founder George Zoley, and how the company is meeting this moment. So, we actually share an editor, and I know that she was interested in this story for a long time, so this question is maybe a little not disingenuous. Disingenuous is not the right word, but I sort of know it also got assigned to you. But Why were you interested in writing this story, and why did now seem like the right time?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So now seemed like the right time because the federal government is rounding up a lot more immigrants than it used to, locking
Wait,
up.
really?
Yeah, in case you didn't hear, and locking up a lot more.
A little bit of levity at the top of a very dark segment.
Yeah. So it's obviously in the news a lot right now, and what maybe is not so much in the news is the fact that ICE really doesn't lock up the people itself, the people who it arrests. It has these contractors who operate for-profit prisons and other detention centers who actually function as the jailers of immigrants who get caught up by ICE. So, sometimes you hear about these for-profit prison companies. The two big ones are Geo Group and Core Civic. But I wanted to find out more about who the people were behind these companies. So I looked at the Geo Group, which is the biggest for-profit prison company in the US. And its chairman, George Zoley, has been in charge of the company since its founding. He founded it back in '84. So I wanted to find out more about him and what makes him tick, how he got into private prisons, and to the extent I could, find out, how he feels about devoting his career to locking people up like this.
I want to get to your time in Boca Raton, where you spent a bit of time at Geo Group facilities, but let's talk a little bit about George Zoley, who is 75 and an immigrant himself. What is his deal?
Yeah. So, like you said, he immigrated here when he was a little kid, 3 years old, immigrated from Greece. And it seems like at first, early on in his career, his real goal was just privatizing government services. He got his start in kind of the for-profit space after working for small town governments for a little while. He was trying to pitch privatized fire services to different towns across the country. And, it didn't go very well. A bunch of these towns ended up saying, no, we don't want a for-profit fire department. We want to keep that a government function. So after a couple years of that not working out too well, his timing, I guess, was more successful because at that same time, mass incarceration was rising in the US. This was the mid 80s. There was, the heroin and crack epidemics and just a lot more people getting sent to prison than before. And governments were running out of space. So Zoley kind of pivoted from the fire department idea to the prison idea. And that proved a lot more successul for him.
But in the piece, you say that it started out under the name Wackenhut Corrections, which sounds like a camp, like a summer camp. It started out as a juvenile detention center that was terrible.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that evolution.
Yeah. So Wackenhut is this private security firm. It's where he got his start. And it was actually under the umbrella of Wackenhut.
Gotcha.
Where he was offering these fire protection services, privatized fire departments. So when that didn't work out, he pivoted still within the Wackenhut corporate umbrella to private prisons. And yeah, a lot of the prisons that his company has built over the years have really been hit with all these allegations of human rights abuses, just terrible conditions inside. So yeah, one of them in Louisiana started off as a juvenile prison for kids convicted of crimes. And the conditions there were just so horrendous that after just a year and a half, they closed it down. There was a federal investigation that found all these human rights abuses. The investigation found that the kids in this prison were like mutilating themselves just to get sent to the infirmary, just to get the relative protection of being in the prison hospital. So that got shut down after just a year and a half. But that's one of the facilities that has since been reopened for immigrant detention. So you see this pattern over and over with the Geo Group, where they'll open a facility as a prison for people convicted of crimes. And then after some amount of time, the facility is closed, sometimes because of allegations of abuse, sometimes because of local opposition to having a prison, sometimes for other reasons. And then after a while, especially now with the growth of immigrant detention, it's reopened for immigrants. So it's built as a prison and then reopened as a detention center.
Now, tell me about your visit to some of the detention centers in Florida.
Yeah, so I visited a few different of these facilities that Geo owns. I didn't get to go inside because they are pretty tight with the security, but they look like prisons. So I actually went to one in Newark, New Jersey, and in Pennsylvania. And, they look like how you imagine a prison to look like because that's how they were built. They were built as prisons, and now they hold these immigrants who, immigrant detention is a civil detention. So it's not a criminal detention. It's not meant as punishment. People in these facilities haven't been convicted of any crimes, but they still look and function like the kind of prison you would imagine. And it's a real juxtaposition, I guess, between seeing these prisons in either industrial areas or really remote areas versus seeing the company's corporate headquarters in Boca, which is this gleaming glass building surrounded by palm trees, really beautiful. And then, of course, George Zoley lives nearby in Boca in this guarded neighborhood that is filled with exclusive mansions and a really beautiful space. So it's a very different vibe there than the prisons.
Tell me a little bit about who leads Geo Group right now. Who is J. David Donahue?
So J. David Donahue is the new CEO. He became CEO at the start of the year, and he's been a long-time executive within the Geo Group. So the thinking is it looks like he's the likely successor to George Zoley. Zoley is still the executive chairman, is his title, and still is leading the company, which he has led ever since the company was founded. But yeah, Donahue seems to be the replacement because Zoley is, in his mid-70s now. He was actually set to retire in the middle of next year was the plan. But then earlier this year, after the Trump administration began and announced its plans to expand immigrant detention and signed a bunch of new contracts, Zoley put his retirement plans on hold. And now the plan, according to the company, is for him to stay on as chairman until 2029.
Wow.
So basically through the Trump administration.
You wrote a little bit about this in your article. Like, how much did they gain from these new contracts from the Trump administration?
Yeah, what is the sort of size of the economic opportunity here, generally?
Yeah, so the opportunity seems significant for the Geo Group. They've already signed contracts that could lead to hundreds of millions more in annual revenue. It's still a little unclear what the total opportunity is going to be for them because they're in negotiations with ICE for a number of additional contracts. But the people at the Geo Group, including Zoley, are very excited about this. Back in February, Zoley had a call with investors where he said the word unprecedented, half a dozen times. He's normally a very restrained person. You can hear in his other public comments, but just after the Trump administration began, he revealed some excitement because they are dealing with a lot more contracting, a lot more money coming from the federal government. And it's kind of an opportunity they've been waiting for and hoping for many years.
Hit us with some numbers. What has it gained over the past year? Can you make any forecast, for the next few months or years during the Trump administration?
Geo Group is negotiating a bunch more contracts with ICE. So far this year, they've already reached new contracts that will allow Geo to hold thousands more immigrants, 4,500 more immigrants. And it depends on the specific facility exactly how much money that brings to Geo, but in general, it looks like for each new facility they open up, they expect to bring in between 60 million and 85 million more dollars each year. So far, as of the end of the summer, like the end of August, they were looking at $210 million more in annual revenue, thanks to these new contracts with ICE. And they're still negotiating more contracts, and new facilities are opening regularly.
It also seems like Geo Group generates revenue from people in its custody. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so it generates revenue in a bunch of additional ways beyond just being paid by the government to lock people up. It also does electronic monitoring. So both immigrants and people convicted of crimes who are not being held in prison, they might have like an ankle monitor or a wrist monitor or just an app that they have to use to check in regularly. Geo makes money from those services. It also does transportation of immigrants being deported. Geo has a fleet of planes and buses and things that it makes revenue on. And then even within the prisons themselves, Geo has this work program for immigrants being held there, where immigrants will do janitorial services or they'll work in the kitchens or elsewhere and only be paid $1 a day.
This is going to sound stupid, but like, how is that not illegal? I guess they're saying you might be illegal, therefore you're not subject to our minimum wage laws. Am I crazy?
Well, yeah, that's kind of an open question. So there are a bunch of lawsuits against Geo right now for doing this. Some of the lawsuits say Geo is violating minimum wage laws. Some say it's violating like forced labor laws. In one case, Geo has actually lost up in the state of Washington. A federal court there said that Geo was violating, I think it was the Washington state minimum wage law. But other lawsuits are still pending. And Geo says that they have this contract with ICE that allows them to pay $1 a day, and they're following the contract.
Does the risk of those kind of lawsuits or more of them impact the company in any way? I mean, financially, I suppose, or on the stock market?
It seems like there's a chance that the lawsuits would impact the company for two reasons. One, if Geo loses the lawsuits, it might have to pay damages to the people who were only paid $1 a day. And in the Washington state case, I think the damages were in the $30 million range. So, it's not nothing.
That'll eat it into your $200 million a year extra profit.
Yeah, exactly. Geo's a big company, so it can afford 30 million, but it's still, that's not nothing. And there are a bunch more lawsuits like that. But then also, Geo can avoid hiring employees to do, janitor work or kitchen work if it has these immigrants doing it. So if it can no longer have these prisoners working for $1 a day, then it would have significantly higher expenses because it would have to bring in more regular employees.
Do you have a sense of, just from the sort of immigrant who's staying there, how long they stay there on average? How long before they get transported elsewhere? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. And, it varies a lot based on the individual person. A lot of times what you hear about is immigrants who are shuttled between facilities frequently. So, I focused at the start of my article on Mahmoud Khalil.
Yeah.
And, he's the Columbia University student who led protests, and then he was picked up by ICE, not accused of any crime, but he was picked up because he was protesting. And at first he was taken to an ICE facility in Manhattan, then quickly moved to some other facility in New Jersey, and then still quickly, within hours, it seems like, flown down to Louisiana, to a Geo Group facility in Louisiana. And he was held there for months before a judge ordered him to be released. But yeah, he was saying on the day he was released, he held a press conference outside the Geo Group facility. And he said, look, when you're in there, that's not what you expect America to be. You don't have rights when you're in there. He said it's really a dark, desolate place. And it sounds like that's the experience of a lot of people who find themselves in these prisons despite not being accused of any crime.
Tell us about this kind of close relationship between Geo Group and the Trump administration, and tell us a little bit about how things like the Big Beautiful Bill have impacted Geo Group's work.
Yeah, so Geo Group has a relationship with a lot of high-ranking members of the Trump administration. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, was a lobbyist for Geo a few years ago. She was lobbying on their behalf on Capitol Hill.
Jesus.
Tom Homan, the border czar, was also doing work for Geo. He had a consulting relationship with them. And, this is something that the Geo Group has focused on for years, trying to cultivate relationships with high-ranking government officials, typically with Republican officials. And it's something that George Zoley has trumpeted as part of the company's strategy to have influential people on their board of directors and have other relationships with people that can aid their attempts to get new government prison contracts. And yet now they're reaping the rewards of those relationships. The big, beautiful bill included an additional $75 billion for ICE, which is just an unprecedented expansion of the agency. And it includes $45 billion for detention facilities. So a lot of that is going to go to companies like Geo Group, and another $30 billion for arrest and removal efforts. So that can also go to Geo, since it includes its arms of transportation and its arms of electronic monitoring. So the company stands to benefit quite a bit from all this money.
Mm-hmm.
Has Geo Group benefited from, obviously the Trump administration seems like a match made in heaven for Geo Group, but they've benefited from past administrations. I believe you talked about in your piece in 2000 as arrest and incarceration started to flatline. They were sort of bailed out by government contracts for immigration detention.
Exactly. Yeah, in the 90s, they were benefiting from mass incarceration and the federal laws and policies that led to increased incarceration. But then when the demand for prisons started to decline, at the same time, the federal laws about immigration started to change. And especially a 1996 law during the Clinton administration is what led to the first ballooning of immigrants who were being held in detention before being deported. That was much less common before 96 to detain people. But then that started to grow, and Geo Group started to shift more to immigrant detention to benefit from that growth.
Now, looking ahead, what's next for Geo Group? It sounds like they have it made through 2029, but what else can you see? I know there's a Supreme Court argument incoming. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the Supreme Court argument, Geo is involved in this case that has reached the Supreme Court, and Geo Group is arguing that it should not be sued for its $1-a-day work programs because it says it has immunity from suit. Just like in some cases, the government has immunity. If the government is is engaging in governmental work, sometimes you can't sue it for that. Geo Group is saying as a government contractor, it should also benefit from immunity. And not only that, it should be able to assert the immunity right at the start of a lawsuit to just throw out the lawsuit from the beginning. So it's up at the Supreme Court now. On a pretty technical procedural point, the question at the Supreme Court is just, can Geo Group assert immunity at the beginning of a lawsuit, or does it have to wait until trial?
If they then say no, do the lawsuits start back up in the lower courts again? Or you know what I mean? Like, how does that work within the system?
Yeah, so if Geo Group loses, or actually no matter what happens at the Supreme Court, the parties are going to be going back down to the lower court to then argue about, does Geo Group actually have the immunity that it claims it does?
Oh my God. Okay, so we're not going to see any big movement there for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll take quite some time, probably years to get all that sorted out. But, at the same time, Geo Group is continuing to sign all these additional contracts with ICE, and the contracts typically go for years. So even once the Trump administration ends, Geo is likely to continue benefiting from these detention contracts that it's signing now. And, at this point, all of the new contracts really involve Geo reopening prisons that it had previously shuttered, so existing prisons.
Low startup costs.
Exactly. It already has the facilities. It really just has to get them going again. But one question for Geo going forward is, will it start building new prisons from scratch? And that's a question of, how many immigrants does the federal government plan to detain? And does Geo Group think that that high level of detention is going to continue for the long term rather than just ending with the Trump administration?
So where does this moment leave George Zoley, who remains a fascinating figure to me? He's at the center, in theory, of this national debate. How does he reconcile him being an immigrant, campaigns for justice, and personal profit here?
Yeah, from the outside, it doesn't look like George Zoley has any real qualms about profiting from jailing other people. He has this $20 million mansion in Boca and seems to be pretty comfortable. He's also really quick to distinguish his own background from the background of the people in his prisons. He doesn't often speak publicly, but back in 2020, he gave testimony before Congress where he said, I'm an immigrant. I came here from Greece, but he was quick to note he and his family came with permission. So I think that was his way of separating himself from undocumented immigrants. But yeah, so he doesn't seem to be too concerned about
Doesn't
this
have
image.
too many issues. Yeah.
No, one.
That's what the money's for.
Yeah.
Yeah. When enough money's coming in and you have a beautiful enough mansion, then maybe you can make things make sense. I did find a song that he wrote.
What?
Yeah, I wanted to get to this.
I forgot about this.
Yeah.
I read this
Yeah, so it looks like
a week and a half ago and forgot, but incredible. Oh,
he appears to be the singer-songwriter in his spare time, and he doesn't put his name on these songs directly, but
how did you find it?
From different clues, it looks like he's the singer-songwriter because he has trademarked the name of his band, and the trademark belongs to a company based in Florida, and he's the only board member of the company. So there are different clues you can kind of follow to conclude that, yeah, likely he's writing these songs. And these are like rock and roll type songs that
would you say, in your professional opinion, are they good?
I would say they vary in quality quite a lot. Some of them.
This is the
volume
most
shooter.
diplomatic.
Yeah.
What is it with these rich weirdos having bands like the owner of the Knicks, Dolan?
Yeah, what?
He has a band that opens for like every show at Madison Square Garden.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, James Dolan, Jim Dolan.
Josh, you would book yourself to sing Broadway songs at the beginning of like a
Fast Company Innovation Festival.
Yeah, pretty much. If you had more power or money, we know what you'd be doing.
Oh God, I would like to think not, but I can't
just
say
takes
for
the
sure.
money. If you can pay for it, I think they'll let you do it.
That's true.
But tell us about the one song that you were talking about before and the themes of the song.
Yeah, so most of his songs are just about love and whatever, but he has this one sort of protest song. It's called "The Sound," and it describes the sound of these voices in pain and these victims of injustice, and it goes on about how difficult and painful it is to hear that sound. And then it kind of ends with this idea of, okay, you could just ignore it and go on with your life and nobody would be the wiser, or you could stand up and do what's right and help these people who are suffering.
And he thinks he's on the helping people side.
I suppose. I really don't know what to make of it. It's like,
either that or he's one ghost into a production of A Christmas Carol. It's the only way.
Yeah, it kind of does have the Christmas Carol vibe. I thought it was really interesting when I heard this song. And, he just recorded this a few years ago in 2021. So it's not like something he did back before getting into private prisons.
Maybe it was like a veiled play towards currying favor with the Biden administration.
I want to know how many hours of music you sat through while writing this piece.
Some of his songs do kind of have nice hooks.
You're a fan. You're a fan.
Nope.
Knew it. Oh. You end the piece being like,
it's got a real Rob Thomas Santana vibe.
Yeah.
Let's close this out with the
to,
sound.
That's a good point.
Let's close this out with the sound.
I heard the sound of voices in pain, like a rolling thunder of a coming rain. The words were angry, the reasons clear. The story was old and painful to hear. If the eyes cannot see and the ears do not hear, what has been done will be done year after year. I heard the sound, it's coming through the floors.
Could be worse. He could have been a SoundCloud rapper.
No, that would have been better. More lyrics
I'd like to hear
parse.
that.
Yeah, more lyrics to parse.
Yeah, not
Oh,
quite so.
God.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that was a great note to end it on, and on what was otherwise a real downer.
Do you think he gets an audience of ICE detainees to clap for him?
Jesus Christ, so we got to get out of this segment.
Yeah. So I do have to say, I don't think he has a whole lot of listeners. This protest type song I listened to several times.
Mm-hmm.
And after I did, I noticed on Spotify that it was the most popular song of his. So I think I'm the only listener.
Well, he's about to get a lot more. Hit the
about
track.
to get a whole lot more.
Michael, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
We're going to take a quick break, followed by our interview with Grace Snelling. Recently, you may have noticed a bunch of weird ads blanketing the subway for a product called Friend AI. We wanted to understand who made them, why they made them, and what this mysterious AI friend actually is. So we spoke with editorial assistant Grace Snelling to find out more. Hey Grace, welcome to the show.
Hi, Yaz. Thank you so much for having me.
Before we even talk about what Friend AI is, what are these subway ads on West 4th Street that have everyone so upset?
Yeah, so this is an ad campaign that, as you mentioned, is run by Friend AI. It rolled out on September 25th in the form of thousands of cards in train cars and on platforms and in urban panels across all 5 boroughs of New York. So if you live in the city, you've probably seen one of these ads. Essentially, they're like black and white posters, and all of them say some kind of sort of needy, servile message. It'll be something like, I'll never leave dirty dishes in the sink, or I'll never bail on our dinner plans, which sounds helpful, but without context, it's a little creepy. And then when you do get context, I'm not sure that it gets much better. So
what's the context? Like, what is Friend AI?
Yeah, so Friend AI is essentially an AI wearable. It looks a little bit like an AirTag on a necklace, and it listens to the wearer, like what you're saying, and then it also listens to the wearer's surroundings. And this wearable is always on. So it's like hearing everything that's going on in the atmosphere around the user. And then it's billed as a companion who can essentially talk to you about whatever's going on in your life. So it'll like send you texts through your phone via an app about what's going on around you. Normally you have to like click on the device to ask it a question or whatever, but over time it can also start just like autonomously talking to you. So yeah, it's essentially just like texting you about, oh, I heard someone on the subway say XYZ. What's going on with you, Grace? Or something like that.
So I want to talk about the founder in a second, but one thing that's really funny is that it's called Friend AI, and then in your interview with the founder, he's like, so this isn't actually meant to replace your friends. Like, it's just like this total disconnect for me where I was like, what is your mission?
Yeah, it's totally on point. There's definitely a disconnect there. I mean, I think that's one of the main reasons that people are freaked out by the whole concept of this device is that it's billed as a friend. And so that makes it seem like, and especially these messages like, I'd never bail on you.
Yeah, you're like, oh, is this solving the loneliness epidemic?
Yeah, but it also feels like it's positioning it as like, your friends are kind of annoying, but this AI wearable like isn't, which Avi, the founder of the company, says is not the case. He doesn't think that this is a replacement for human friends. But again, that is kind of the vibe that comes across through the copy of the campaign.
What is Avi's deal?
Oh, I wish I knew, but great question. Yeah, I can give a little background on who he is. So Avi is 22. He is a Harvard dropout, and he's had several other successful...
Can I just say, we need to ban, like, anytime I read an article is like Harvard dropout, I'm like, we don't mention dropouts from other schools. Like, we should just stop.
Yeah, that's
you
fair.
know, like,
Well, that maybe Stanford.
I was going to say Stanford is
is
the other
mentioned
one.
in that. But the Zuckerberg of it all gives the Harvard dropout that sort of cred.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
So he's a 22-year-old, of course. What
Yes.
are you mentioned?
You
he
can
had other
sense
businesses.
Yaz and I's mid-millennial angst about this.
Yeah, no, totally get it.
But you said he's had several other successful businesses.
Yeah, so at 17, he created this viral COVID tracker website. I think it had like tens of millions of users. It got, noticed by Fauci. And then after he dropped out, he created another website that was dedicated to matching displaced Ukrainians during the war with open homes. So he's done a lot of like interesting other ventures, which to me, those two things do not feel like they lead into friend AI. So it's kind of a strange pivot for him. But from what I can gather from other interviews, it started as like a CRM assistant for another nonprofit that he was working on. And then it was called Tab AI when he was first working on it. And over time,
this
he
is
was
Tab.
Right.
Yeah. And then I think that the vibe is that he was kind of working on it while he was traveling abroad and feeling a little bit lonely. And it sort of evolves from this, CRM thing into a friend, which is what it's billed as today.
Give us some context. How much has he raised for this thing? And how much do these devices cost?
Great questions. So in total, he's raised $7 million in venture capital. The devices cost $129 now. They were $99 during pre-order. And just for context, the pre-order opened in July 2024. He said at the time that the devices would be shipped by January 2025. But then there were like several production and development delays. And so people who ordered their devices at that point, more than a year ago, some people still have not received the devices. So the number he gave me was that they've had about 5,000 sales and 1,000 have shipped total at this point now. So that leaves, theoretically 4,000 people who still don't have their friend. But then he did actually a couple of days later, after he told me that 5,000 number, he told Fortune that they had 3,000 sales. So a bit of a discrepancy there. I'm not actually sure which number is correct.
Wow, the "will never bail on you" ad is really ringing pretty hollow right now.
But per that later interview to Fortune, that was about, I think it was like $348,000 total in terms of how much those sales netted for the company. Yeah, so a bit of an interesting financial situation for him. He's also said that, so he spent $1 million on this ad campaign. And again, for context, that campaign debuted prior to all of the original pre-order friends actually shipping. So there were quite a few people who had ordered the device, but
who were like, what?
Didn't receive it before the campaign went up. So it's kind of like, hey, bud, why'd you spend that $1 million when I don't have my companion with me yet?
But I think in his words, like, if you want to purchase the zeitgeist, you kind of have to go for the jugular.
That's so true. Couldn't have said it better.
Wild. I mean, it's so interesting. I mean, I'm the only one of the three of us that lives in New York and has seen these, in person, has seen these ads. And I have to admit, when I've seen them, I've just been like, oh, another weird ad on the subway. It's always weird ads on the subway.
Well, I feel like West 4th is like always has just like, remember they had those really cursed ads for The League, the dating app for like
Yeah, I remember those.
elite singles, and then they had a lot of ads for like Ozempic through Hims
Yeah.
or Row. Yeah, so it's like
The Hims and Hers ads are definitely like a huge mainstay on the subway. It's also like, if you want to advertise somewhere that's taking advantages of people's desire not to talk to actual human beings, but maybe replace with an AI friend, the New York City subway is probably the right place to advertise.
But sorry, to go back to what I was saying, do you have a sense of so far what consumers are seeing with this device?
Yes. So unfortunately, I haven't tried a friend. Wish that I had. Avi, please send me one. I'd be happy to test. So if you look at Avi's Twitter, you'll see several positive reviews. So, I'm just going to find like one of these ones that he's posted. So one of the reviews that Avi has reposted is 2 months with Avi Schiffmann's friend round my neck pretty much 24/7. And in a weird and subtle way, it's changing my life, pushing me to do things I wouldn't have done and encouraging me to take a few risks, rather like a real friend would. So that's an example of something that Avi has endorsed about the device. But if you go outside the Avi bubble, most of the reviews that you'll find are quite negative, I would say, or at least very skeptical about the device. So, for example, Fortune's recent review said it felt like wearing your senile, anxious grandmother around your neck. Wired had an article called I Hate My Friend, and one take there was, the chatbot-enabled friend necklace eavesdrops on your life and provides a running commentary that's snarky and unhelpful. Worse, it can also make the people around you uneasy, which makes sense because it looks like you're wearing an AirTag. Like it doesn't look like a regular necklace. And there have also been like reviewers.
Much like a regular friend.
Much like a regular friend. There have been reviewers on Twitter who seem like they bought the device in good faith, but then just aren't loving it so far. I read one that said, it hurts to say this, but it wasn't that good. Why do I need this extra piece of hardware? I know.
It hurts to say this is so funny.
Poor guy. Yeah.
Now, what was the experience of speaking to Avi like?
Yeah, great question. It was a little bit odd in my just total experience of interviewing. He is very blunt, and I think from just reading past interviews of his and looking at how his public persona has sort of shifted, I got the sense, and this is my own just personal speculation, that maybe there's an element. Obviously, we've seen that with the campaign, he's admitted that sort of rage baiting or encouraging people to give social commentary was part of the purpose of the campaign. Like, he's talked about how he designed these ads and he left the blank white space on the ads in order to encourage people to leave, graffiti and commentary.
That, when I read that seemed like a very like retroactive justification for it. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm too cynical here.
I've seen people wondering that too. I'm inclined to believe him just because the actual copy that he chose does feel so provocative. And I think he already knows that people are weirded out by the concept of his company. I don't think that comes as a surprise to him. So I'm inclined to believe him. But in terms of how he comes across over interview, I did wonder if there was an element of crafting his own persona and the way that he speaks about the product in order to sort of drum up interest from readers, just in terms of his demeanor, the way he frames it, some of the more intense quotes that he gave me, which I can read if that would be helpful for context.
Go for it. Give us a couple.
Let me find the one that stood out to me the most. He mentioned that he felt that investing $1 million in this campaign was actually saving him money and it was cheap overall. So I kind of asked, tell me more about why you say that. Why do you think that it was, not actually that costly? And he said, it saves money in having to market it otherwise. I could be some bozo and go pay a bunch of dumbass influencers to go yap about it for hours, be irrelevant, and spend millions of dollars over many years to get even a fraction of what I could get for something like this. So, just the kind of energy, the machismo there. It came across a little bit like, are we going for a quote that's going to be sort of the most extreme about the product, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm curious, and you asked him about this in the interview, like, how are you measuring ROI for this thing? Like, is it getting people to order the friend, or is it really just raising awareness of the product in the first place? Like, what can you say about that?
Yeah, so Avi explicitly said that the campaign was not designed to drive sales. And in fact, he's rather insistent that he doesn't want too many people buying the necklaces all at once. Like, he wants it to be more of a long-term rollout.
Because he hasn't been able to fulfill any existing orders. Yeah.
Right. And it sounds like it's been really expensive production-wise. I mean, he's told several other publications that he's really low on cash right now. Like, this $1 million investment kind of put him toward the bottom of the barrel in terms of his funding.
Well, you said they raised $7 million?
$7 million total, but a lot of the money, it seems, has gone toward the production, development, and now marketing efforts.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
No.
I'm also curious because this is more or less like a wearable, always-on AI device. Isn't that what Joni Ive and OpenAI are making right now? Some sort of necklace sort of thing?
Yeah, and there's been Rabbit. Do you guys remember that one?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. terrible device.
It's like an AI pin
Humane
that totally
pin
flopped.
is another, yeah.
So I'm also curious how Avi thinks about, concerns around data privacy related to the tech. I mean, you cited a review or an article that basically said, like, it makes other people uncomfortable when they see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the data privacy, I think, is one of the most fascinating angles here. I think people's main concern, as you mentioned, is that this thing is literally recording you all the time and everything around you. So there's kind of the implication that other people are roped into this without their consent. And that always on, aspect of the wearable is part of the terms of service agreement. When I asked Avi sort of about how he thinks about the data privacy concerns and the idea that this is surveillance capitalism, his response was essentially like, well, the always-on element is the main sales point of the device. So for some context, in their terms of service, they include clauses on biometric data consent, which grant the company permission to passively record audio and video, collect facial and voice data, and then use these to train AI. But Avi told Fortune that they aren't currently using user data to train AI models, but they're kind of writing in some extra steps to make sure that their bases are covered. He also said in that article that they aren't caching audio right now for later upload. So it seems that they're not like storing the recordings. But I would say his main talking point is that Friend contains a secure key, which he frames as like a YubiKey, which my understanding of that is it's like a physical version of two-factor authentication. And essentially this key inside the device means that if you don't want your device to like store your data anymore, or you're over it, if you like smash it with a hammer, you're all good. That was one quote that he gave me was, you can smash it with a hammer if you don't like it, whereas with ChatGPT, you can't really throw that out a window. Fair. So his selling point is that you can literally physically destroy the device, and that will like remove your data.
That only works if it's all only happening on this closed system that is the device, which maybe it is. I don't know. But do you see what I mean?
Yes, totally. And full disclosure, I don't completely understand like where the data is stored.
Yeah.
Or technically like how smashing it with a hammer would like solve that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not air gapped. Presumably, it sends you text. It's obviously like
Right.
connected in some way to some sort of data, and even if they're not now, I mean, yeah. So it's more it's bullshit. It's
Yeah.
whether they're storing it right now is probably more of a question of cost, since storage is, well, I mean, they've only shipped 1,000 of these, and it's not that much not that many.
There's a lot
files.
of questions around this business.
Yeah.
Yeah, the data privacy thing is sort of a whole can of worms because there's like a lot of elements there that I'm not totally clear on how it works, honestly.
Well, to wrap up the segment, I guess final thoughts on where this business is heading per Avi. You know,
Yeah.
what's going on in the next year?
I asked him how he sees the campaign translating into becoming a sustainable business, which, as we've mentioned, is a main user concern since not all of the devices have shipped. It's like unclear how production is going. He said that his next milestone is going into a retailer like Walmart, Target, or Best Buy.
Oh, yeah. And he said in the next year. And I was like, are discussions underway? Like,
Yeah, which that's another thing that's unclear how he's going to gain that sort of investment from a major retailer without the sales numbers and production timeline to back it up. So uncertain how he's going to actually make that happen with the business that he's built so far.
It seems like acquisition is the only like viable. I mean, I don't know, but at this point,
or
but, like, unless they get a
raising
major,
more money. Like,
yeah,
you know,
that's
there's
the
a lot
other
of
thing.
It's so young in its life that, like, who knows where this could go, right?
Yeah.
But Avi seems like a sort of, to me, reads like, you know, like when Sam Bankman-Fried used to just like randomly give these insane interviews, but at the time we thought like he had stuff to back it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I think we'll need to see some friends performing well in order to back up that kind of persona.
Completely. No, and that is my take too. I think, yeah, as he said to me, the point of this campaign was not sales, it was visibility. He said he wanted to purchase the zeitgeist, which is all well and good. And I would say that he has been successful to some degree in the element of generating conversation. But it's one thing to do that and another when, if the reviews were all glowing, I think that this would really be working out for him because people would be discovering the device. But if you then go out to read more about Friend, pretty much the main thing you're coming across is that it doesn't work as advertised. And so there's a bit of a gap there.
This was great. Thanks, Grace, for talking us through all things Friend AI.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
We're going to stick with Grace for keeping tabs. And as a reminder, that is where each of us shares a story, trend, or piece of pop culture we are following right now. And Grace, since you're our guest, what are you keeping tabs on?
Yes, well, when I heard about this segment, I wanted to bring in something positive just in our hellish news cycle. And so one thing that I'm keeping tabs on is the return of Reading Rainbow. I'm sure
It's back.
Yeah,
it's back. It's
I
back
knew
after
it.
20 years. Many millennials, I'm sure, will remember Reading Rainbow as this cute kids' TV show hosted by LeVar Burton. It was on air for 26 years, I believe, and won like almost 30 Emmys. And now it's back and hosted by a viral TikToker who is a former librarian. So that's cute.
I mean,
It's adorable. I loved Reading Rainbow.
that's cool.
Yeah.
I never watched it, so I just like don't know. You know what I mean?
The theme song is the part that sticks out the most to me. And after covering this for Fast Company, it's been stuck in my head like for days.
Butterfly in the sky, I can go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow.
Just can't get it out.
Didn't people want LeVar Burton to host Jeopardy or something? I think that's
They
like
did.
when
There was
I
a big
first heard
push.
about Reading Rainbow.
There was a big push to get LeVar Burton to be the host of Jeopardy. And we ended up with Ken Jennings and Mayim Bialik.
Well, we first ended up with that guy who was the producer for the show, who just like
Oh, yeah.
picked
that was-
himself, and then
That was pretty rough. didn't go great.
Never forget.
And then it was like everyone was like LeVar Burton, and then there was another crowd that wanted Aaron Rodgers to be the first.
Oh, yeah.
Remember this? He did guest host, but man, that would have been a choice.
Would have been so funny. Although Mayim Bialik also has like a bunch of crazy views.
Yeah, she wasn't great. I don't think she does it anymore.
Yeah, they just need to find somebody who's like not a conspiracy theorist. It shouldn't be that
It's
hard.
Ken Jennings. They have Ken Jennings doing it, and that's...
but he's not hosting the whole thing.
No, well, they have more like
Yeah.
offshoots. Like Colin Jost hosts like a pop culture
Yep.
SNL, which I think is fine. It's all fine.
No, Pop
There's
Culture
like a pop-
Jeopardy.
Yeah, there's a pop culture Jeopardy. Yeah.
No, you called it Pop Culture SNL.
Oh,
And I
whoops.
was like, what?
Nope, not pop culture SNL. SNL is pop culture.
I was like, what?
Well,
What is he talking
pop may not be relevant anymore. It's culture. Yeah, pop culture Jeopardy.
Josh, what are you keeping tabs on?
So I'm keeping tabs on Pop Culture Jeopardy.
No.
No, I'm not. I'm keeping tabs on a potential Broadway actors strike that may happen, which would be the first one since the 1960s. So basically, the production league contract with Actors Equity and Broadway shows, that's the bargaining contract that governs all Broadway actors and stage managers, as well as Broadway national tour contracts. They're at an impasse between Equity and the Broadway League that has basically no signs of lifting. And so Actors Equity may authorize its first strike of Broadway shows and Broadway theaters since 1968, which would be a pretty interesting move for them to do, because prior to COVID, the union was in a very different place where, and this is from some of my friends who are on the governing boards and within the union, there was a section of people within that union who quite literally didn't view the union as a union. They viewed it more as like a collective or a club, which is fascinating to me, which kind of explains how actors and stage managers had terrible contracts for years compared to like their more technical counterpart in Broadway theaters, IATSE, which has great contracts and does a great job bargaining for their members and their workers. So kudos to you, Broadway actors, for finally viewing your union as a union and using the tools at your disposal to get yourself better contracts, particularly around healthcare, which is of a major concern because it's a very physical job and there is terrible healthcare benefits and workers' comp around Actors Equity contracts. So that's what I'm keeping tabs on. I'm not sure if this will be authorized by the time you listen to this or not, but I'm keeping an eye on that. Any follow-ups? I was waiting for someone to say something. Yeah, it's just like, cool. All right. Anyways. Yaz, what are you keeping tabs on?
So over the weekend, I was feeling kind of sick and decided to revisit some of the worst first pitches in history by celebrities. And
Wait,
so
what?
I just,
Say that again?
you know, like how they get celebrities at baseball games to like throw out the first pitch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I was just like watching YouTube videos of them. And I just wanted to highlight 3 that I think people should view in order. Mariah Carey's first pitch is iconic because she kind of just drops the ball and walks away, which is amazing. 50 Cents is really good because you get the sense that he thinks he's going to be good and then he just throws it straight into the ground. And the greatest first pitch of all, Steve Aoki, this like jacked little man. He winds himself up so hard and it's just crazy how poorly it goes. So I'm just here to encourage all of you to watch, to YouTube Steve Aoki first pitch and have a great 30 seconds.
People really overestimate their ability to throw a baseball.
Oh, to pitch 100%. Yeah.
Especially
Yeah,
because
yeah.
like up on those mounds, like those mounds are tall and it's a little disorienting because you're going downhill.
And it's like further than you think, like the distance.
Yeah. I think I've seen the Mariah Carey one before and she is not trying hard. She does not put any effort. It's great.
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. It's like different levels of effort.
There's super cuts definitely of all of the bad throws.
It's a good one. If you want to laugh
I would definitely be, not that I'll ever throw out a first pitch, but I would definitely, maybe at a minor league baseball game, the Portland Sea Dogs, because I'm pretty sure you could just email them and be like, can I throw out the first pitch? And they'd be like, yeah, sure. No one's going to ask me to do it. I'm pretty sure it would be like a pay to play
Yeah, when
scheme.
you were like, I would be, it was like, Josh.
No. I'm never going to be it'd have to be like I beg someone to let me throw out the first pitch at a game. I would definitely be overconfident and end up screwing it up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'd be overconfident. I think I would know that I wasn't going to be good, but I would try really hard. Like, the outcome would be the same as Steve Aoki's pitch, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you live in Boston now. You should just start petitioning Fenway and the Boston Red Sox to let you throw out a first pitch.
Okay, you know what I found out recently? If you give birth at Weill Cornell in New York, they give you a bag of Chanel products on your way out.
What?
Like beauty products. And you know what I get at my hospital near Fenway?
What?
My child gets a free private tour of Fenway to be redeemed whenever they want.
Thank God.
I was like,
wow,
give me the Chanel products. What the fuck am I doing here?
I mean, but you know in Boston, the most people would be like, no, I want the Fenway thing. Chanel?
Yeah.
Where am I going to wear Chanel?
I know.
What am I fancy? What do you think, you're better than me?
That's why I don't belong here.
No, you do not belong in Boston. It's not for you. You're more of a Toledo gal.
Definitely Tampa.
Tampa's definitely your vibes.
And that's it for Most Innovative Companies. Grace, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys. This is so fun.
Our show is produced by Sam Gebauer, Hawa Otori, and Blake Odom, editing by Matt Toder, mix and sound design by Tad Wadhams and Nicholas Torres, and our executive producer is Josh Christensen. Remember again to subscribe, rate, and review, and we'll see you next week.